The bookstore smelled like old paper and someone's abandoned ambition. Fairy lights hung crooked above the poetry section, the kind of vibe that existed purely because the owner saw it on Pinterest in 2019 and never updated. Mila Osei sat cross-legged on the floor between two towering shelves, tucked into the spot right next to the broken heater that hummed too loud and made everyone move away. That was the whole point. She wore a washed-out burgundy oversized hoodie with a small bleach stain near the pocket that she'd stopped trying to hide, high-waisted dark green cargo pants with the drawstring hanging loose, and worn-in brown suede New Balance sneakers with no-show socks. Her locks were half up, held by a single scrunchie that was one stretch away from snapping. No earrings. No lip gloss. No desire to be perceived. Her phone screen glowed in her lap. A poetry reel she'd posted to a throwaway account 3 weeks ago was sitting at 600,000 plays. No face reveal. No name. Just her voice, raw and a little cracked, reading 7 lines over a gray winter window. She hadn't told a single person alive that it was hers. Her phone buzzed. A message from an account she'd never seen before. Verified. The profile name, Cade Morrow. She knew the name before she even searched it. Cade Morrow, creative director of Vault, the most respected short-form storytelling platform in the country. The message read, "I know you wrote Signal Loss. Do not disappear on me." Mila turned the phone face down on her knee. She stared at the spine of a book she wasn't reading. She breathed. She counted the crooked fairy lights. She told herself it was fine. It was absolutely not fine. Across the city, inside Vault studio space on the 14th floor of a building with no sign on the front door, Cade stood at a wide window with his arms folded, watching rain drag itself down the glass. He wore a slate gray crewneck that had been washed so many times it had softened into something that looked borrowed, straight-leg black jeans with one rip at the left knee he hadn't planned, and clean off-white high-top Converse. A thin silver chain sat at his collarbone. His dark curls were unstyled, slightly damp, like he'd come in from somewhere and just never dealt with it. He didn't look like someone who ran the most talked-about platform in the country. He looked like someone quietly carrying something heavy. "Find the account," he said without turning around. His assistant's voice came from behind a monitor. "It's completely wiped. No metadata, no linked profiles, nothing." "Then go deeper." "Cade, this person clearly doesn't want to be found." "That's exactly why I need to find them." He picked up his phone. Read receipt appeared under his message. She'd seen it. She hadn't typed back. He stared at that little checkmark for a long moment. Back in the bookstore, the heater hummed. Mila's phone buzzed again. Same account. New message. One line. "Whoever just flagged your throwaway account to 3 different media outlets isn't a fan. They did it 10 minutes ago. I already know who it is. But that's your call." Mila went completely still. She hadn't touched that throwaway account in 2 years. Nobody knew it existed. Her screen lit up one more time. A notification. A comment on the reel she thought she'd buried. Anonymous account. No profile picture. Just 3 words. "Found you, Mila." Vault looked different at 11 p.m. During the day it was controlled chaos, ring lights and rapid edits and people talking over each other about retention rates. But at night the whole floor went quiet, and the city just floated outside the glass like something that hadn't decided what it was yet. Mila stood outside the elevator for 3 full minutes before she stepped in. She had not dressed to impress anyone. She wore a black-ribbed long sleeve with a small visible darn at the right cuff she'd sewn herself, straight-leg washed black jeans, white low-top Air Force One slightly scuffed at the toe. Her locks were still half up, same tired scrunchie. One AirPod in her left ear, playing nothing. Just there as a boundary. Cade was already in the room when she arrived. He'd lost the crewneck, now just a white fitted tee, same black jeans, same Converse. He was leaning against a table with his arms crossed, looking less like a creative director and more like a person who hadn't slept since Tuesday. He looked up the second she walked in. Didn't pretend he'd been doing anything else. "You came," he said. "You knew I would." She stopped 6 feet from him. "Who flagged my account?" He turned and pulled up a screen. A username glowed in the dark. She recognized it before he could say it. The air left her lungs clean. "That's my former writing partner," she said. Her voice was flat. Dangerous flat. "Yeah." Cade watched her face. "We need to talk about why." "No." She shook her head once. "We need to talk about how you found me when nobody else did." A silence stretched between them like something taut. "Because I've been following your anonymous work for 8 months, he said. "Across 4 different platforms. Different usernames. Same voice." He paused. "You write like someone who's been screaming underwater." Mila blinked. That was not the answer she was ready for. "That's not a compliment," she said. It wasn't meant to be easy to hear. He didn't move from where he was standing. "I think someone's been stealing your unpublished work and releasing it under a ghost alias. The engagement patterns match yours. The cadence matches yours. If we don't move fast, they're going to own your voice before you ever claim it." The room felt very small. "Why do you care?" she asked. The question was not soft. Cade looked at her for a long moment, like he was deciding something. Then he said, "Because 3 years ago, the same thing happened to me. And nobody showed up." Mila said nothing. She looked at the screen. She looked at the username. Then she looked at him. "Start from the beginning," she said. "All of it." They talked until 2 a.m. Not the soft kind of talking. The kind that leaves marks. Cade had laid everything out on the table: his stolen project, the person who took it, the 2 years he spent silent because he couldn't prove anything. Mila had listened without flinching. That alone made him trust her more than he expected to. He'd also made her a real offer. Publish under her name. Full credit. Vault's full platform. Real protection this time. She'd said she needed to think about it. That had been 4 days ago. Now Mila was back in the bookstore. Different spot this time, near the front window, rain against the glass. She wore a cream knit cardigan 2 sizes large, a white baby tee underneath, low-rise blue-gray wide-leg jeans, and tan Ugg slippers she'd worn outside despite knowing better. Her locks were fully down for the first time in a while, falling past her shoulders. She looked like someone trying to feel like a person again. Her phone buzzed. Her ex-writing partner, Joss, was calling. She stared at the screen. She answered. "You need to stop," Mila said before Joss could speak. "I'm protecting you." Joss's voice was too calm. "Cade Morrow is not who you think he is. Vault has a contract clause that signs over derivative rights to anything created on their platform. You publish with him, he owns the evolution of your work." Mila's chest tightened. "Where did you hear that?" "I did my research." "Joss. Where did you actually hear that?" Silence. The kind that answers the question. "You've been talking to someone inside Vault," Mila said slowly. "You've had someone on the inside this whole time. While you were flagging my accounts." Her voice dropped. "While you were leaking my drafts." Still silence. "It was you," Mila said. "The ghost alias. That's been you." Joss exhaled. "You weren't going to use any of it. You were just going to let it sit in a folder forever, and I needed the break." Mila hung up. She sat completely still while rain hit the window. She didn't cry. She felt something worse than that. She felt confirmed. Her phone buzzed again. Cade. Did you look at the contract I sent over? She typed back without thinking. Tell me about the derivative rights clause. 3 dots appeared. Then they disappeared. Then they came back. Where did you hear about that? Does it exist? A long pause. Too long. It exists in our old contracts, he finally wrote. I had it removed 8 months ago. It was the first thing I changed when I took director. Another pause. Mila. Who told you about it? She looked at the rain. Someone who's been one step ahead of both of us, she typed back. And I think I know why. The meeting happened at noon in a glass-sided conference room at Vault that felt like being inside a fishbowl. Mila had sent Cade the call logs. The timestamps. The alias account linked back through 3 platform handoffs to a single IP address tied to an internal Vault login. Someone on his team had been feeding Joss information. The contract clause, Mila's throwaway account, the original upload metadata, all of it. Cade sat across from her now in a charcoal-structured jacket over a black-fitted turtleneck, dark trousers, the same Converse he always wore. He looked like someone managing a controlled demolition of something he built with his hands. Mila sat across from him. She'd worn an oversized denim jacket, a ribbed gray tank underneath, straight-leg black pants, and chunky white sneakers. Her locks were pulled back tight this time. Armor, again. It's my head of acquisitions, Cade said. She's been running a parallel content agency using creator work she siphons before it goes live. Joss wasn't just your ex-partner. She was a client of hers. Mila nodded slowly. So the offer to publish me through Vault was never compromised on my end. His jaw was tight. But I understand if it feels that way. It doesn't feel that way, she said carefully. It feels like we're both collateral damage in someone else's hustle and you're about to offer me something that's going to cost you. He looked at her directly. I'm removing my head of acquisitions. Today. That's going to create a very public internal conflict that's going to land on every industry blog by tomorrow morning. And I'm still going to publish your work under your full name with a public letter confirming you as the original creator of everything that was released under that ghost alias. Mila stared at him. That's going to make you look like you knew. Yeah. People are going to think you were part of it. Probably. Cade. Her voice broke just slightly on his name. That's going to wreck you. Only for a while. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, and for the first time he looked less like a director and more like just a person. 3 years ago nobody did this for me. I'm not going to be that person for you. The room was very quiet. Mila looked down at her hands. Then back up. I'm going to go on camera, she said. First time. Face, name, the whole thing. I'll publish a statement myself tonight and link it directly to Vault. If we do this, we do it together. Your name doesn't take the hit alone. He looked at her like she'd said something he hadn't expected to survive hearing. You don't have to do that, he said. I know, she said. That's why I'm doing it. Outside the fishbowl windows, the rest of the Vault floor kept moving. None of them knew yet. By morning, everything would be different. Mila's phone buzzed. A new comment on the original reel that had started all of this. Anonymous account. But this time the words were different. I told them it was you. All of it's coming out tonight. Joss had flipped first. It went live at midnight. Mila's face on camera for the first time. No ring light, no filter, no performance. Just her, sitting in the bookstore after hours with the crooked fairy lights on behind her, wearing a faded black zip-up and the same bleach-stained hoodie from the night everything started, because she wanted to look exactly like herself and nothing else. She read her statement straight through. She named the ghost alias. She named the stolen drafts. She linked to Vault's official post, which went up at the exact same moment, signed by Cade and containing a full audit trail with the head of acquisitions named and already removed. By 3 a.m., it had 2 million views. By morning, the industry blogs weren't writing about Cade. They were writing about Mila. She sat on the floor of the bookstore at 4 a.m. with her back against the poetry shelf, locks loose, slides back on, completely exhausted and completely present in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her phone lit up. Cade. You okay? She thought about it genuinely before typing back. Surprisingly, yeah. You? I've been better. I've been a lot worse. A pause. The acquisitions team is in chaos, but legal says we're clean. The audit covered everything. Good. She looked up at the fairy lights. Cade. Yeah. Why did you actually come looking for me? Real answer. Not the professional one. A long pause. Longer than any of the others. Because your voice sounded like someone who had something true to say and was terrified of what would happen if anyone heard it, he finally wrote. And I've spent 3 years building a platform that's supposed to be for exactly that person. Another pause. Also, I read every single thing you ever posted anonymously at 1 a.m. more than once. So. Mila put the phone down on her knee and stared at the ceiling for a solid 10 seconds. Then she picked it back up. Come to the bookstore, she typed. I'll leave the side door unlocked. He was there in 20 minutes. No jacket this time. Just the washed soft crewneck, dark jeans, Converse, that thin silver chain. He looked like someone who had run towards something instead of away from it. He sat down on the floor next to her, back against the same shelf, close enough that their shoulders were almost touching. Neither of them said anything for a while. The fairy lights hummed. Rain tapped the window. The city did what cities do at 4 a.m., kept going quietly for the people who needed it to. I'm not good at this, Mila said eventually. She wasn't talking about the publishing deal. I know, he said. Me either. That's not reassuring. Wasn't supposed to be reassuring. Was supposed to be honest. She turned her head and looked at him. He was already looking at her. Okay, she said. Just that. Okay. It was enough. Outside the bookstore window, the city was still lit up and going and completely indifferent. Inside, 2 people who had spent years making themselves invisible sat in the crooked fairy light and decided, for once, to stay found. The end.